The American Urban Camp. The economically stimulated thirst for blood, the unrelenting climate of national apathy and fear was the basic thrust of American society circa 1980. In and about the 1960s, almost 80% of the black population was living in the major urban centers. From 1973 on, during the then called energy crisis years and the awakening energy conservation movement, blacks were prevented from increasing their economic class-related imitation of non-black migration into suburban communities. It was during these years of American currency devaluation, spending restraint, inflation, oil shortages, and zero population growth that the black birth rate skyrocketed, while that of non-minority citizenry dropped drastically. There was never any open acknowledgement about the evacuation of the blacks, i.e., the extermination of the Negro people. Few non-black Americans could afford to recognize the plight of nearly a quarter of their population being slowly, systematically starved in the profoundest political, economic sense to death and remain respectable. It was the dominant Anglo-Saxon Protestant desire to rid its society of a darker people who represented the clear threat of racial extinction. During these two significant decades, black and non-black regulations became more and more stringent. Blacks were allowed neither separate but equal nor minimally adequate public and or private education. They were forbidden to excel in almost all professions. Food could be obtained primarily by the use of federal food stamps issued through the then Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. During and following the Vietnam conflict, greater police and drug inducement activity, the opiate, somnambulant social equations of alcohol, heroin, and the animal tranquilizer PCP, popularly termed booze, skag, and angel dust, took place in the urban camp and steadily increased throughout the 70s. While various historians have pointed out that the oppression of colored peoples was, in part, the responsibility of those oppressed in their failure to unite against fight said oppressor, others have labeled the extermination of millions of blacks as an inexcusable atrocity. Black writers, creative as well as professional, poets as well as journalists of the period, were at the mercy of a tacit proclamation adhered to voraciously in many instances and subconsciously in others by television, motion pictures, newspapers and magazines, as well as major publishing houses and, to a slightly lesser extent, the art world. A. Language and literature are the purest expression of a people. B. There is at present an antagonism between American literature and the nature of black people. This situation is degenerative. C. Purity of language and literature is our national duty. D. Our most dangerous adversary in the performance of this duty is the black. E. Blacks are only able to think like blacks. When they write white, they are lying. F. We want to root out these lies. G. We consider blacks alien and take the characters of our non-black people seriously. Therefore, we demand censorship. Black works must be monitored. If they appear on television, they must appear only in comic or fantastic form. The black way of life must not be allowed to clutter the public air, public libraries, or other public communication media. The dominant culture used every possible means to bring non blacks to consider blacks their great inferiors. Latent anti black sentiment was formed into a powerful political weapon. Measures were taken to ban blacks from further participation in the dominant American society, condemning blacks to a hopeless economic struggle and inevitable death in the subculture of the urban camp. Approximate number of victims of the major urban concentration camps: Atlanta, Georgia, 50,000. Bergen-Belsen. Jackson, Mississippi, 92,000. Ravensbrück, Miami, Florida, 63,500. Buchenwald, San Francisco, Oakland, California, 70,000. Dachau, New Orleans, Louisiana, 138,000. Mauthausen, Houston, Texas, 74,000. Flossenburg, Boston, Massachusetts, 100,000. Sachsenhausen, Harlem, New York City, New York, 2 million. Auschwitz, Washington, District of Columbia, 1,380,000. Medinik, Chicago, Illinois, 600,000. Belzec, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 280,000. Sobibor, Los Angeles, California, 731,000. Treblinka, Detroit, Michigan, 600,000. Chelmno, Newark, New Jersey, 67,000. Stutthof, Puerto Rico, 2,350,000. Jonestown, Guyana, 934.